Back it up!
Tensions reach boiling point in Minnesota.
It was a quiet winter morning in Minneapolis, a city already on edge after a major federal immigration operation descended on its streets. Thousands of federal officers had been sent by the U.S. government to enforce immigration law in what officials described as a crackdown.
That breaking news comes from Minnesota. ICE agents say they were forced to shoot and kill a woman who they say tried to run over officers at an anti-ICE demonstration.
At approximately 9:30 a.m. on January 7, 2026, a 37-year-old woman named Renee Nicole Good was shot and killed by an agent of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in South Minneapolis. The incident happened just blocks from her home, mere minutes after she had reportedly dropped her 6-year-old child off at school. Good was not a protest leader or a gang member. She was a mother, a writer, a community member described by family and neighbors as compassionate and kind. She had moved to the Twin Cities with her partner and was building a life there when her life ended suddenly at the hands of federal law enforcement. According to video shared online and eyewitness accounts, ICE agents surrounded her vehicle and attempted to open her car door as she sat in her SUV. Soon after, another officer fired directly into the vehicle at close range. Good was struck and later died from her wounds.
I was standing on my front porch. Was just making breakfast and I heard the commotion. I heard the honking and the whistles.
Federal officials later claimed that the agent had acted in self-defense, alleging that Good weaponized her vehicle in an effort to run down officers. They described the shooting as defensive and necessary under the circumstances. But local leaders and eyewitnesses strongly rejected this characterization. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey called the federal account bullshit, saying the video he saw did not support claims that the woman was attempting to harm anyone. Frey blamed the heavy presence of federal agents for escalating tensions and urged them to leave the city. The shooting took place during one of the largest immigration enforcement deployments in recent Department of Homeland Security history. More than 2,000 officers had been deployed to Minneapolis and neighboring St. Paul as part of an immigration crackdown targeting alleged welfare fraud and undocumented immigration. News of Good's death quickly spread, fueling immediate public outrage. Residents and community groups gathered at the scene, chanting for federal agents to leave and demanding accountability. Protesters held signs and whistles, became a symbol of resistance against what many saw as excessive force. The tragedy also triggered protests nationwide. Demonstrations were planned in dozens of U.S. cities, with organizers calling for justice and accountability in response to what they characterized as an avoidable killing. Activists argued the incident was part of a broader pattern of aggressive immigration enforcement under the current federal administration. In Minneapolis, the atmosphere remained extremely tense in the days following the shooting. Schools throughout the city were closed as local authorities tried to maintain order amid ongoing confrontations between residents and federal agents. Neighborhoods that were once quiet became the center of protests, with crowds gathering in front of government buildings and on busy streets, chanting and demanding answers. In some areas, confrontations escalated as armed officers used crowd control measures, including tear gas, chemical irritants, and baton dispersals, in an attempt to manage the swelling demonstrations. Residents described scenes of fear and confusion, with families worried about leaving their homes and workers uncertain about commuting safely to their jobs. State leaders were quick to respond to the tragedy, denouncing the killing and calling for calm while demanding accountability. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz described the shooting as predictable and avoidable, emphasizing that such outcomes were the result of unnecessary escalation in a situation that could have been handled differently. The governor urged protesters to channel their anger into peaceful demonstrations, warning against retaliatory violence while making clear that public outrage was justified. In addition, the National Guard was placed on high alert to support local law enforcement should the unrest escalate further, highlighting the severity of the situation and the concern for public safety in the Twin Cities. At the federal level, leadership defended the actions of the agents involved in the operation. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem called the incident an act of domestic terrorism, insisting that the ICE agent acted in self-defense to protect both himself and fellow officers. President Donald Trump echoed this narrative in public statements, framing the situation as a justified enforcement action and casting the victim in a confrontational light.
I watched that yesterday, and there are a lot of different forms to it. She was an agitator, probably a paid agitator, but in my opinion, she was an agitator, a very high-level agitator, so professional.
These statements intensified the debate, polarizing public opinion and fueling the perception of a federal overreach in a city already wary of aggressive immigration enforcement operations. Meanwhile, family members and friends of Renee Nicole Good painted a very different picture of the incident. According to them, Good had been a devoted mother, a loving partner, and an active member of her community. The fatal encounter occurred just after she had dropped her 6-year-old child off at school, and she was reportedly unarmed and not involved in any illegal activity. There is no indication that Good was the subject of an active investigation or that she posed a threat, raising serious questions about the justification for the use of deadly force. Her sudden death has prompted growing demands for transparency, including the release of body camera footage and any federal video evidence documenting the event. In the wake of the tragedy, legal efforts have begun. Good's family has retained one of the nation's most prominent civil rights attorneys, known for their work in high-profile cases involving police and federal misconduct. The goal is to hold the responsible parties accountable and to ensure that federal agencies face scrutiny for their use of force policies, particularly in operations conducted within urban areas populated by civilians. The case has drawn attention not only to individual accountability, but also to systemic concerns regarding federal law enforcement practices. The incident has sparked renewed debate about federal immigration enforcement tactics and the presence of heavily armed IICE operations in major U.S. cities. Critics argue that these deployments, ostensibly aimed at enforcing immigration law, often escalate tensions and create unsafe conditions for residents. The Minneapolis shooting has brought these concerns into sharp focus, with questions about the necessity and proportionality of force, the adequacy of training for federal agents in civilian environments, and the oversight mechanisms in place to prevent unnecessary deaths. Residents, community leaders, and advocacy groups have increasingly called for the removal of federal immigration agents from the city, arguing that their presence has destabilized neighborhoods rather than providing protection. Many point to the psychological impact on local communities, citing fear, anxiety, and a breakdown in trust between residents and law enforcement. The tragedy has amplified long-standing discussions about the balance between enforcing federal law and safeguarding civil liberties in densely populated urban areas. Beyond the immediate implications for Minneapolis, the killing of Renee Nicole Good has sparked a national conversation about policing, immigration, and accountability. It has highlighted how federal operations intersect with local communities and raised pressing questions about how agencies justify the use of lethal force. Lawmakers, activists, and the public are closely examining the policies and procedures governing federal enforcement, with particular scrutiny on whether agencies are adequately trained to operate safely in civilian environments. If this report helped you understand the evolving situation more clearly, please like and subscribe for ongoing updates. We'll continue to track the investigation, the protests, and the broader implications of this incident. As more facts come to light and communities across the country respond to what happened in Minneapolis.